Good morning. A number of cities and towns in our state will be adding some new technology along our roadways to try to get some of the speeding that police are seeing under control. Joining me now to talk about those issues, red light cameras, speed cameras, police pursuits, some of the things police are dealing with this year and asking the legislature to support in 2025 is Groton Police Chief L.J. Fusaro. Thank you for being with us, Chief.
Well, thanks for having me, Eric.
Tell me, let's talk first about these cameras. There's been a lot of publicity about both the red light camera and the speed camera program. They're going to slowly roll out. Cities and towns have to request them, and we know some have. Tell me what this means if I'm a driver. Sure.
Well, what it means is, clearly we want the motoring public out there operating safely, but there will be the opportunity for municipalities to individually decide whether they want to have speed cameras or red light cameras. And they can't just universally institute them. There has to be some metrics that are met. For instance, for a red light camera, there has to be 2 accidents at this intersection within a 3-year period. They have to go to the Department of Transportation and petition to do this. There has to be a public hearing. So there's a bunch of different things that have to be done in advance. And it isn't universally approved, but there has to be justification that's articulated by the municipality to DOT to justify these.
One of the things that this changes is sort of an agreement between the drivers and the police officers and those who enforce the law that I can't speed and you can write me a ticket for it, but you got to catch me. This is a little bit different, right? And it also changes who's getting that ticket.
Sure is. It's going to take a picture of the license plate. It will go to the registered owner. So there's some challenges that may be facing the motoring public because of that. They're going to see a ticket that comes in the mail. Maybe it was their child operating the car or someone else, but it will go to the registered owner. It's a new technology, taking advantage of it, and some cities and towns may want to do that, others may not.
And I didn't even think about that, about teenagers. There's going to be some teenagers who have to really behave because those tickets are going to come to your parents. Are there issues from a policing perspective on that, or is it just another tool in the tool belt? There's not an officer walking out of a cruiser writing that ticket. Is there anything you're concerned about, or it seems like a program that should help?
Sure. Well, it may help. Again, it's an individual decision for each municipality. One of the whole overriding reasons we stop cars is to change the future driving habits of the motoring public. When they see a police officer stop with another car, it impacts not just that operator, but all the people that drive by it say, you know what, I got to slow down, or I got to be more cautious when I'm driving. So, there's not that effect. There's not the effect of having a police officer on the side of the road that somebody actually sees doing enforcement.
Yeah, understood. Street takeovers, another big topic that gets a lot of media coverage. You and I have talked about this in the past and how terrifying it can be for an innocent driver to get caught in the middle of this. Your municipality had a deadly street takeover a year and a half ago. What do you need to deal with this? What tools do you need in your tool belt? Where does the legislature come in with that?
We did speak about that, and that was an unfortunate incident that happened in August of '23 where a 24-year-old lady died that was riding on a motorcycle or a dirt bike that was operated by another individual who did face manslaughter charges, who's still in the court system answering to those charges. What do we need? We want preventative measures out there, but there needs to be consequences, right? And in my town, recently they adopted an ordinance that allows us to impose fines on an individual that has been involved in this. $1,000 the first offense, $1,500 the second, $2,000 for the third and subsequent offense. And it also gives a little bit more latitude to seizing those vehicles, the ATVs, the unregistered dirt bikes, that sort of stuff, and potentially auctioning them or destroying them. So there's more consequences in the legislation that I've seen that's been reflected in what's coming out right now in the General Assembly kind of codifies that a little bit. So it's right now it's happening in the municipal level, and we're hoping that it moves up to the state level and gives us a little bit more teeth.
Well, is that part of the problem, is that some of the people involved in these street takeovers feel that it's without real consequence, without real risk of consequence, as things stand today?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that we're seeing that not just in street takeovers, but universally when it comes to traffic, the operation of vehicles on the roadways. We're seeing a lot of people operating recklessly, not just on street takeovers. The difference that with street takeovers, these aren't registered vehicles. They're not adhering to any safety standards. They're certainly disregarding the rules of the road, and they're not just putting themselves at risk, but they're putting other people out there at risk. So I do think it goes beyond just the street takeovers into general traffic safety issues.
Speaking of which, pursuits is another big issue. I told you, I have a friend who's a police officer and was saying that, basically all a driver has to do is speed away, and unless there's a very short list of reasons why they can chase, it's over. And people know that, especially people who are doing things like misusing plates and know they won't get caught. What do police officers need? And I know your role at the Police Chiefs Association, you're going to be dealing with the legislature on this. What do you and other police officers want to see to fix pursuits?
Sure. Well, let's back up a little bit. First of all, we understand in law enforcement, there's an inherent risk to a pursuit, right? When you're pursuing someone, they're operating thousands of pounds in metal going down the roadway. There's risk to the operator in that vehicle. There's risk to the law enforcement officers, and there's risk to the people that are out there. So it is a risk versus reward. We have to determine when it's justified to do that. In Connecticut, we do have a uniform statewide pursuit policy that governs when a police officer can pursue. If it's a dangerous fleeing felon, we can do that. If it's a property crime, even up to a stolen car, the likelihood of an officer pursuing is governed by that policy, and we're not going to do that if it creates an inherent risk to others. So what we'd like to see is, because it is a big deal, it is an issue. Whenever an officer is prompted into a pursuit, officers don't engage, officers don't promote the pursuit. The offender does. They initiate the pursuit, and an officer responds to that. But what we want to see is maybe upping the consequences for that, because if it's that important to us as a society that people shouldn't be out there, operating recklessly, defying the rules of the road, and then, essentially disregarding the signals of an officer so that they see someone's going to stop me, I'm just going to take off. We want there to be consequences, because we will eventually catch up to them. May not be that day, but we will identify who that person is, and there should be more consequences. What we've proposed is to make this into a felony. Right now it isn't a felony, but it would be governed by the fact that, hey, maybe this is the first offense, so it's a misdemeanor. Second or subsequent offense could be a felony, and if somebody's hurt as a result of one of these, if there's a serious injury accident, somebody's gotten harmed, or there's a fatality as a result, that it puts the onus on the person that initiated that pursuit rather than the police officer who's responding to it.
Because if word's out that police officers aren't going to chase, people might think it's an easy way, just hit the gas and get away. Another thing that sticks with driving safety is marijuana stops.
Sure.
That's still an issue that the law enforcement community is grappling with, because it is so different from alcohol.
It very much is. And as the position that the Police Chiefs Association had taken for many years was there is no roadside sobriety test for marijuana. That's why we were opposed to it, for a variety of reasons, but that primarily. That ship has sailed. It's legal here in Connecticut. But yet, today, we have pretty stiff DUI laws, and there's consideration about lowering the BAC level to 0.05, and there's open container laws. But one of the challenges we face in police work today is that, a person could be operating a vehicle. We could smell a strong odor of marijuana coming from that vehicle. Maybe there's one occupant. Person could be smoking marijuana in the car, and we can't stop them for that. And it kind of flies in the face of, I don't know what that was necessarily the original intent. We'd like to see that change, because we should be able, that should be reasonable suspicion to stop a car. Because once again, we're dealing with challenges of DUI, not just alcohol, not just marijuana, prescription drugs, other intoxicants. And the polydrug problem is a big issue. That's where someone may be drinking, on medication, and or illegal drugs, and the combination of that is significant. And we don't have the ability to test on the side of the road for that stuff. We have drug recognition experts. They're a great tool for us, but that's post-arrest.
Well, it's, a lot of times when you come in and visit us or another police chief, people might say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. Mm-hmm. All this road stuff applies to all of us. So we appreciate you coming in, clarifying the cameras, talking about some of the legislative goals for the chiefs. Chief Fusaro, thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me again.